far feeling pretty good about that write-in race?
I'm telling Laura you voted for her. They're out voting. Yeah, there's a long line. Hey, Cam.
You know, the alternative is to not have any at all, so you got to,
What a nice entrance, Freddie. Nice entrance. The shades come off slowly. Adjust to the room. We like it.
Spence builds. He's probably out working the last bit of campaign working.
I've not seen Laura's opponent even anywhere. Well, he doesn't have any side.
Last minute campaign stuff, don't you have to do something first before you do a last minute thing?
Oh, I guess he's just doing a last minute campaign. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock and time for the Tuesday, November 8th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County. If Mr. Paladin will quiet down a little bit, we'll actually begin the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Paladin. We'll begin with an invocation led by Jeffrey Smith, followed by the pledge led by Commissioner Bob Solari. Thank you.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today with such an important day in the life of our nation. Lord, I just pray that everybody that's going to vote will seek your will before they go. And Lord, I pray that we thank you for giving us such a free country where we can go and vote and express our opinions and make a difference. So I pray that everybody will get out and vote today. And Lord, I'm reminded of that scripture in 2 Chronicles where you say that if we turn away from evil and seek your face and humble ourselves, you'll hear from heaven and forgive our sins and heal our land, Lord. And we need that so much in this country right now. So I pray that everybody will take this serious and this will be a day that we can celebrate. Lord, we also ask again for special prayers for the first responders and the military men and women who serve us all around the world. Lord, we lost a dear firefighter here locally, and we've lost some military personnel around the world. Just be with their families. We can't imagine what their grief is, but you can, because you lost your son as well. So be with us now as we go forward today and give these men their wisdom, your wisdom, to do your work. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that invocation, Mr. Smith. Move on to additions and deletions to the agenda. The Rigby's have asked to be pulled from 10B1. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda?
As amended?
Second.
Or excuse, yes, as amended.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Flesher. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Proclamations and presentations. The first will be a presentation of a proclamation designating the month of November 2016 as National Runaway Prevention Month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Frank, you want to come on up? We have Frank Avila here from Children's Home Society. And Frank, you're actually going to be receiving two proclamations, so I'm just going to go ahead and read them back to back while you're up, and then you can talk to them about both of them.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great. The first one is a proclamation designating the month of November 2016 as National Runaway Prevention Month. Whereas for more than a century, Children's Home Society of Florida has upheld our legacy of transforming the lives of children and families. And whereas on any given day, approximately 375 youths are homeless on the Treasure Coast. The National Runaway Switchboard reported more than 268 crisis runaway calls from 2 Treasure Coast area codes, 772 and 863, during 2015. And whereas Children's Home Society of Florida Treasure Coast Division works diligently with the National Runaway Switchboard and the Family and Youth Services Bureau to educate and prevent youth in crisis from running away and subsequently living on the streets. And whereas Children's Home Society of Florida provides support services to youth in crisis that aim to move youth into stable living situations. And whereas Children's Home Society of Florida, along with its community partners, embraces opportunities that can potentially change the way society cares for children and youth. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the month of November 2016 be designated as National Runaway Prevention Month in Indian River County. In honor of this event, we encourage community agencies, religious organizations, businesses, and others to recognize and observe the month of November 2016 as National Runaway Prevention Month. As a community, we need to focus our attention on those children who experience crisis and turn to the streets for support. Adopted today, the 8th of November, and signed and witnessed by all 5 county commissioners. And Frank, the second proclamation is designated the month of November 2016 as National Adoption Awareness Month. And whereas for more than a century, Children's Home Society of Florida has upheld our legacy of transforming the lives of children and families, and whereas on any given day, approximately 125 to 175 children are awaiting adoptions on the Treasure Coast. And in the last 3 years, over 450 children have been given the gift of forever families. And whereas Children's Home Society of Florida Treasure Coast Division works diligently with the Department of Children and Families to ensure that every child has a forever family. And whereas children waiting for adoptive parents and families who have adopted these children require and deserve community and agency support. And whereas Children's Home Society of Florida, along with its community partners, embraces opportunities that can potentially change the way society cares for children and youth. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, Indian River County, Florida, that the month of November 2016 be designated as National Adoption Awareness Month in Indian River County. In honor of this event, we encourage community agencies, religious organizations, businesses, and others to celebrate adoption, honor families that grow through adoption, further an awareness of the changes and issues in adoption, and focus attention on those children who live in the shadow of an uncertain future while they await forever families. Adopted today, the 8th of November 2016, and again signed and endorsed by all 5 county commissioners. Frank, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about both of these proclamations.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you all on an annual basis for the amazing support and recognition that you give us year after year for both National Runaway Prevention Month and National Adoption Awareness Month. I personally work with the adoption program as the adoption marketing specialist, but in my previous life at Children's Home Society, I did work with our Wavecrest shelter, which is our runaway and crisis shelter for 11 to 17-year-old youth that are either runaway homeless, ungovernable, or truant. So what I can say, of course, is on behalf of Children's Home Society and all of our staff, we thank you incredibly for both of these proclamations. One of the things that we do here in Indian River County is, you've probably seen those yellow and black diamond-shaped signs that say Safe Place. That right away is our way to bring our shelter to the community of Indian River County. Wavecrest is in St. Lucie. It's located in Fort Pierce on Selvets Road. But by educating the youth and the community and the businesses about the Safe Place program, that is one way for us to get children off the streets, or young teenagers off the streets quickly, by letting them know if they ever run into danger or are kicked out of home, find themselves in a difficult situation, to go to a safe place, and they can then contact our shelter and we can bring them in if that's necessary. Contact the family, let them know that their child is okay and that they're safe. So that's just a little bit about how we deal with the runaway prevention on a daily basis at Wavecrest and through Children's Home Society. Adoption, again, I've been the adoption marketing person for about 9 years now with Children's Home Society, and we have seen many wonderful things happen through adoption. Just this past fiscal year, that ended on June 30th, we actually had 199 completed adoptions in that most recent year. Our goal was 123, so you can see that we super exceeded that. These are children, of course, for those that may not know, that are, victims of abuse, neglect, abandonment, etc. We do our best to try to recruit local adoptive families. I do a lot of promotion, whether it be newspaper, putting the Heart Gallery, which will be on display starting this Thursday at your Building B across the way, and it will be on display there until, I believe, right after the first week of the new year. That is a photographic display of our most difficult to place kids, the older children, the sibling groups, the minority or biracial children, the kids with physical, emotional, or behavioral issues. We try to get the faces of our children out in front of the public in a very proactive way to promote the need for adoptive homes for our children. The month of November, we'll have about 15 adoptions across our 4-county area. We expect about another 16 in the month of December. At the end of October, we already had 61, so we'll be in the mid-80s or so by the end of halfway through our fiscal year, with our goal being 131 for this current year. And lastly, I'd like to say that our National Adoption Day celebration will be taking place on the 19th of this month at Langford Park in Jensen Beach. It is a free family event for any public and family members that have grown through adoption. We feed folks, we give them free entertainment. There's absolutely no charge whatsoever for folks to come on out. It'll be from 10 to 1 at Langford Park in Jensen Beach. I know that's a lot. I really appreciate your support, and thank you all so very, very much.
Frank, if someone was interested in learning more about being an adoptive family, forever family, phone number, website?
Sure, absolutely. We have an adoption information line, which is 772-429-2001, or they could get more information about Children's Home Society programs and services, including adoption, at www.chsfl.org.
Okay, great.
Just real quick, in addition to that, you have an event coming up February 25th, I believe, which is a fundraiser at Corporate Air, if you'd like to give that a shameless plug.
Well, we do. We have, I believe it's, I don't work in the fundraising and development department, but I believe we do have a wonderful event taking place, as you said, February 25th. I believe it's called Fly Me to the Moon. Mm-hmm. It should be a wonderful event. I don't stay at that event. I get to set up a display and then kind of get on out of there, but I know it was a success last year, and I believe it would be nothing but the same again this year. Thank you so much.
I heard they got a great auctioneer, and
How people exaggerate.
That is a shameless plug. Thank you.
Frank, come on up.
Is that a full-time engineer?
6, I think. Yeah.
Frank, did you want a picture, or? Sure. Scott can take it for you.
We got to stretch the meeting out.
Thanks, Joe.
Don't want to finish.
Chairman's not happy unless we're here till noon.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Don't forget your glasses.
Remember when you get your car.
Thanks again.
We will now move to the presentation of a proclamation designating the day of November 11, 2016 as Veterans Day. Commissioner Davis will present, Major Kim Pilger and Captain Doy Demzik will receive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome.
Thank you.
This is a proclamation designating the day of November 11th, 2016 as Veterans Day. Whereas on May 13th, 1938, Congress approved an act designating November 11th as Armistice Day, commemorating the end of World War I and paying tribute to the heroes of that war. And whereas on June 1st, 1954, Congress approved an act changing the name of Armistice Day to Veterans Day in order to also pay tribute to the veterans of World War II, veterans of all wars, and who have contributed so much to the preservation of our nation. And whereas over 18,000 veterans of all wars presently reside in Indian River County, which is host to 25 veterans organizations. And whereas veterans residing in Indian River County, individually and collectively as members of veterans organizations, contribute in many ways to the welfare and the betterment of the social, cultural, and economic life in Indian River County. And whereas Indian River County Veterans Council, consisting of representatives from more than 20 city and county veterans organizations, annually observe Veterans Day, as well as all patriotic observance days, by holding ceremonies at Veterans Memorial Island Sanctuary in Vero Beach. And whereas Indian River County and some of its prominent citizens of the past and present have established Veterans Memorial Island Sanctuary as a place to commemorate and to pay tribute to all the veterans of all wars. And whereas the City Council of Vero Beach maintains, improves, and makes Veterans Memorial Island Sanctuary one of the finest veteran landmarks in the United States that pays tributes to all veterans that have served our country. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that November 11th, 2016 be designated as Veterans Day, and the Board encourages all citizens to fly the American flag to pay tribute to all veterans, living and deceased, and to attend the Veterans Day service at 8:45 a.m. at Veterans Memorial Island Sanctuary on Friday, November 11th, 2016, adopted this 8th day of November, 2016, signed by all 5 county commissioners. First of all, I want to say thank you to for your service to our country. I appreciate that. And is it ever as appropriate as any to be able to give you this proclamation on the day that America is voting and having the opportunity to exercise a right that wasn't free?
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner, and to all the commissioners and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having us here today and for this proclamation. As a proud member, or veteran, of the United States Air Force, now retired just over 20 years ago, I'm happy to represent the Veterans Council of Indian River County. We have such an outstanding group of organizations, auxiliary members, and friends throughout this county and neighboring areas supporting the thousands of veterans in Indian River County, and I'm very proud of that fact. For specific details now on what's going to happen on Veterans Day, November 11th, I would like to turn it over to the Veterans Council's Program Manager, Doy Demzik.
Thank you. I just want to say it's always an honor to stand before all you excellent commissioners and all of our awesome staff for Indian River County. It's in my opinion, it's the greatest place to live in the United States. I'm just honored to be here. So about the Veterans Day ceremony, just as Commissioner Davis read, it's 08:45 on Friday, November 11th. I recommend everyone bring water and a chair just because those seats fill up fast. We've got an excellent speaker this time. It's Major General Clay Buckingham. He was born here in Vero Beach and went to serve in the Army. Actually, so served in Korea as a second lieutenant, got the Silver Star for actions during combat, and then actually went back and served in Vietnam as well. So two of our major wars, he served in both. And actually, he serves on the Army, the War College that the Army has, actually as a consultant now. So he's going to have some really excellent experience to impart. And as you know, all of our veteran organizations are going to be represented there. We get a lot of requests from all the amazing people here in the county saying, hey, we want to do an event on Veterans Day, and we want to do this, and we want to hold this. I highly recommend, if you want to support veterans, go to the events that the veterans are already doing. So that'd be go to Memorial Island. If you want your business to show support, bring the business to the island. We'd love to have a group of people there. And for our northern residents, American Legion Post 189 and VFW 10210 also do another Veterans Day ceremony, 11 a.m. at Riverview Park. So you've got options. You can do 8:45 at the island of Vero Beach, or 11 at Riverview in Sebastian. Or if you're really motivated, you can make it to both. I've done it.
We can do that.
But if you have any questions about the Veterans Council or the Veterans Day ceremony, I'm here to serve. But thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so very much.
Major and Captain, I just want to say thank you for your service, as you have been already thanked. We can't thank you enough for all the liberties and the rights that many people take for granted each and every day, and thank you for your sacrifice. But I just want to express an extreme thanks for your continued efforts for all of these events and the ceremonies, because this is the educational endeavor and your commitment to our youth, so they understand that there is a price to pay for freedom. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep. Lift him up. Acting like he's just somewhere to go. I don't know. What's he got to do? Well, you guys want me to get out of here by noon, so
Thank you again. Bye.
We'll now move to a presentation of a proclamation designated the day of November 29th, 2016 as #Giving Tuesday. Commissioner Fletcher will present. Angela Perry, Executive Director, and Freddie Wolfert, the Facilities Operations and Director of Public Relations of the Gifford Youth Achievement Center, will receive. Good morning, Ms. Perry and Mr. Wolfert.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity. I think you left someone out there for the presentation there. Come on up. We need the whole team.
Yes, sir.
And normally I would give a prelude to the proclamation, but I'm going to yield this because I believe that Mr. Woolfolk might have a few words to say about
What would you think?
Just,
just
just a few.
It's a premonition. But thank you.
After Ms. Perry.
And we'll proceed anytime it's Gifford Youth Activity Center.
Achievement Center.
Achievement Center. It's going to be spoken by Freddie. Thank you.
Thank you.
The proclamation reads as follows, designating the day of November 29, 2016 as #Giving Tuesday. Whereas Gifford Youth Achievement Center is a 501c3 agency with its sole purpose to enhance the academic achievement of children in Indian River County and enhances youth and adult success in life and the positive sense of self-worth within every individual they serve. And whereas GYAC serves students as well as provides programs and activities for adults and senior citizens, serving over 200 students and adults, and on an average daily basis in their facility, their classrooms, computer labs, a branch of the county library, and an indoor gymnasium. And whereas the Gifford Youth Achievement Center will be participating in the global movement known as #Giving Tuesday on November 29, 2016, which was created for the people to come together for one common purpose, to encourage giving and to get involved in the way that is meaningful to them and their community, which promotes generosity throughout a call to action for donating funds, volunteerism, or the promotion of worthwhile causes to others. Whereas the Gifted Youth Achievement Center has become a part of this day of giving, and that it brings diverse organizations together to work in support of the mission of establishing a partnership among our youth and adults in the gifted community and surrounding municipalities in Indian River County that will develop self-esteem, teach character, and encourage each individual to reach for his or her own ultimate potential with God's guidance. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the day of November 29, 2016 be designated as #Giving Tuesday in Indian River County, and the Board encourages all citizens to work with the Gifted Youth Achievement Center and other agencies to participate in the global initiative of giving. Duly adopted this 8th day of November 2016 and signed by all 5 county commissioners. Mr. Wolfoff.
Ms. Perry.
Ms. Perry first.
Thank you, Commissioner. On behalf of the staff, the board of directors, the family and children that we serve, we'd like to thank you for this proclamation coming from the county today. We are so grateful for the support we've always received from the county that goes back to 1996 when the concept of GYAC was being formed. So we're very appreciative of this recognition today. As the proclamation states, it's an opportunity for all of us to give back. It follows Black Friday and Cyber Monday when we're spending a lot of money on our family or ourselves. This is an opportunity for us to look around our community, be able to give back to those who may be less fortunate to us, particularly as we approach the Thanksgiving holiday. So we're thankful for the support we receive. Our students will be adopting a local nonprofit and will be giving back on Giving Tuesday to a local nonprofit here in the area. So again, I'll yield the balance of my time, Commissioner, to Mr. Woolford. But again, just want to thank you all so much for the recognition.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner. It's always great to stand before you because I consider you more than just a group of men on the commission board. I consider you friends. I consider you individuals with hearts. And this Giving Tuesday is a part of that heart-sharing moment, a time that you can not only give of your treasures, you can also give of your talents and even your time, which is very important there at the Gifted Youth Achievement Center. We have mentors there. We have individuals who help tutor. Believe it or not, those volunteers in that time is very, very important to the nurturing of those young people that we serve. When you look at Giving Tuesday, you look at the opportunity for individuals who don't have to be connected with individuals that do have. And you do have a lot to offer, and we as citizens in Indian River County show that on a daily basis. When you look at Giving Tuesday, you also think about, well, what is so important about GYAC? Well, I'm glad you asked. In 1996, as Angela spoke, we came about, we were called the Gifted Youth Activities Center. So we decided in the last recent months or two to come up with what we call take a look, say hello to GYAC. Well, why we say hello to GYAC? It's been around for 18, 19 years. Why say hello to it again? It's just like a child. When you met us, we were Gifted Youth Activity Center, like a child in our embryonic stage. And the activities that we do were numerous. Since that time, 18, 19 years later, we begin to see from them those activities, achievements take place. So we want you to take a look at us again, not as the child that we were, but now as a mature organization doing even greater things than we did from inception. So we'd like to invite you out to the Gifted Youth Achievement Center on November the 17th.
You got a license to run heavy equipment?
Did a Holiday Express last time.
Thank you.
Move on to information items. Gentlemen, anybody wish to pull one for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to highlight item B, which is a job fair coming up specifically targeted for veterans, which would be
Yes.
appropriate. It's called Paychecks for Patriots. It'll be Monday, November 14th from 10 to 2 o'clock at Indian River State College at the St. Lucie West Pruitt campus. So that's an opportunity for veterans to find jobs, and so I'd encourage everybody to attend that as a veteran.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Item D, just like to thank Maria Calderon for her years of service on the Planning and Zoning Board as my District 3 appointment. And those shoes will be filled by Chip Landers, a longtime resident friend that will be taking over Maria's spot, I believe, at the next meeting coming up. So, Chip, thank you for your willingness to serve the community. And Maria, if you're watching, thank you for your years of service. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Anything else? In that case, we'll move to the consent agenda. Gentlemen, anybody wish to pull something from the consent agenda? I'll ask the audience if there's anybody here who'd like to pull something from the consent agenda for discussion. There being none, be happy to
Move
get a
approval.
motion. We have a motion from Commissioner Flesher,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Move on to constitutional officers and government agencies. We'll begin with the Indian River County Clerk of the Court. Good morning, Mr. Smith. Always good to have you, and today it's a repeat for you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm proud to present the financial statements, and we returned $31,362.46 from our excess fees. We experienced a budget cut on the court side, and I try to run the entire clerk's office as efficient as possible, so we were able to turn back $31,362.46 for you. And I appreciate the work of the budget department and the county administrator. As I say every time, but it's worth repeating that that's not the case in a lot of counties in this state where the clerk's office and the comptroller get along with the budget and county administrator. So I appreciate that relationship and want to continue to further that. So thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you,
Smith.
Mr. Smith.
And I'd like to thank Jeff because he does work with us very well. We've got a great relationship, and he's very fiscally conservative in his budget, and I appreciate that always.
Next up is the county property appraiser.
Oh, Mr. Motion.
You want a motion to
Motion to
accept the
approve and accept.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, seconded by Commissioner Zork. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. The property appraiser, is anybody here from Mr. Nolte's office? Gentlemen, anybody have any questions about Mr. Nolte's item?
Move to accept.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Flesher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Next up, we have Indian River County Sheriff Darrell Lohr. Good morning, Sheriff Lohr.
Good morning, gentlemen. In the interest of time, I'm proud to report that we are at a very, as Jason would say, fiscally conservative year. We had some great things happen. We had less inmates in the hospitals, which, as you know, draws up our allocations, as well as our fuel costs were down, and hopefully they're going to continue to go down. And as important, as we'll entertain next budget cycle, plenty of vacancies that we've kind of shifted the dynamics and only hiring the best. Therefore, we've had some openings throughout the year that we are trying to fill, but we're only going to fill them with the best candidates possible. So in saying that, there's a bit over $400,000 that we will be returning to the board. And as I bring that up, I would make one request, since everyone's in a great mood today. a few things that we could not purchase prior to, and I briefly mentioned this to Mr. Brown the other day. We have a 29-year-old generator at the county jail that is in dire need of replacement. We've placed Band-Aids on that for the last 6 years. And after Hurricane Matthew, we recognize that we have windows on the top floor of the administration building of the jail that were flexing even during Matthew. And in In addition to returning over $400,000, I would request that those items somehow be procured. The generator is $88,000, which is 29 years of age, and the windows are about $47,000, which are impact resistance, which do not require us getting up on a high lift putting shutters up. Those windows as well are 27 years of age. So I appreciate your consideration. I know everyone's in a hurry. We have a busy day today. And I appreciate the year-long relationship that we've had. And as Mr. Smith said, Mr. Brown is a breath of fresh air.
Sheriff, on the 2 items you're requesting, I believe you ought to submit a request in the next week or two. I don't see any great
Yes, sir.
reason to refuse them, but just the way the agenda's done,
Yes,
we
sir.
ought to let the public know.
Yes, sir.
And so we always look forward to having you here and look forward to giving you a special reason to come back soon.
Understood, and I appreciate your help.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Zork?
Sheriff, 2 items. One, on the generator cost, I don't know who does your procurement on your side, but with a lot of the upcoming expansion on natural gas lines, that if that can run on a different type of fuel source and opens up some other opportunities for savings for you. Secondly, following up on a little conversation that you and I had on where we're having some of the municipalities are doing more of a clean sweep on some of the homeless situation, that a lot of those folks have a lot of medical needs, and it's really stressing the medical side of services in the jail. And I don't know the answer to that, but them fixing one problem to them creates a huge budgetary impact on the other, and knowing that. And if you have suggestions or how we can look at quantifying it so we know what kind of numbers we're looking at, but it is pretty significant.
We've been tracking that in recent months, and I'll report back to you.
Okay. And I'll get that information to you later on the generator.
Yes, sir. We have all the bids for the generators, and they are natural gas compatible. We've already got all that done in case the board was in a really good mood today, but we'll bring it back in a few weeks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sheriff. Just before you go, I want to mention part of the funds coming back to the general fund was a little over $25,000 from the mental health court, and I guess it was last week, Sheriff.
Yes, sir. Last Tuesday.
Dylan and Jason and myself and the sheriff had the opportunity to attend one of the graduations of the mental health court, and I tell you, it was very impressive what they're doing there. First, the fact that there were 7 individuals that had completed their medication, their counseling, and gotten back to where now they were productive citizens, and charges were dropped, and they had a clean record, and they could move forward with their lives. And to hear them talk was very inspiring. And the other really great thing was just how many different agency folks were all working together to help these folks in their time of need. And it was very impressive, and I'd recommend if any of you all haven't been to one of the graduations to make the effort to do it. And then, just when we get to that funding cycle, if you have that experience of seeing what they're doing with, with basically very little dollars, but what the community benefits from it, it'll give you a whole different perspective of that. So it's very good. And Sheriff, I know Judge Cox, she's very passionate about it.
Sure.
She knew every client, and they're clients now because they're working with them and getting them help. But she knew every client by name. She knew the story behind them. She knew the funny story, the sad story.
Sure.
Very impressive how everybody, public defender, state attorney, the agencies, everybody really working to get these folks help. And it was very impressive. So keep up that good work, Sheriff.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being there. And note that 2 of those, of that a little over 200,000, 2 of those are Sheriff's Office employees. And I can't think of a better way to spend $200,000. And thank you for being there, Mr. Brown and Mr. Reingold.
And just real quick, so how many people are in the program right now?
120, 130.
Way more than we ever thought.
Maybe more than that. I may be because they rotate through, Commissioner, once they reach the terms and conditions of their probation.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, that program on January 27th of this coming year, 17, will be 2 years old.
Yeah.
And we didn't expect it to be as contagious, if you will, as it is. And it's truly remarkable. and it's the best $200,000 the county's spent in a while.
And Commissioner, just the process, we got there earlier when they were doing what they call staffing, and the clients weren't in the courtroom yet. It was just all the agency folks and the judge and the public defender and the state attorney's office folks. And they went through everybody's file, and they said, okay, yeah, he's been attending his sessions, he's taking his medications, he's doing this. And they say, okay, well, he'll just come back in 2 weeks and, another checkup. Couple of them, unfortunately, they said, he kind of fell off the wagon. He left the house he was staying at and came back and smelled of alcohol. And then they said, okay, well, the hard decision is he's got to go back to jail for a week. And then they go through every client that way. And then the clients come in, and Judge Cox calls them up, and they go through that whole process. But she'll ask them, she'll say, hey, Joe Q, how's it going? I hear you taking your medications. Are you going to counseling? Are you, doing this? And they say, yes, Judge, yes, yes. And she goes, great, see you in 3 weeks, and they go through it. The ones that kind of fell off and were facing revocation of, what was it, ROR?
Yeah, revocation.
Revocation.
They go back to jail right then and there in front of
Yeah,
everyone.
they don't have a chance. They say, well, can I pay my bills? Can I get this? And the judge says, no, one of these guys is going to escort you out and off you go. And that's the price, the program. You didn't go to jail in the first place, but if you make a mistake, then that's where you go. But fortunately, there's only a couple, I think, out of the 100 or so we saw last Tuesday. But again, Commissioner, just all the different agencies, there must have been 20 folks sitting in the jury box that all represented some kind of agency or a housing organization and all that. And they were all pulling to help these folks and get them back on their feet. It was truly impressive.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Good job, Sheriff.
Very much, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Move to accept the sheriff's report.
Second.
To approve from Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Fleischer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. The next is the supervisor of elections, but as we all know, today is election day.
I think you ought to send her a letter wondering what she's doing, why wasn't she here?
That's a pretty wimpy excuse.
I
for
know,
not
I mean,
being
good
here.
gosh.
Well, that's just because you're not up for election. For me, I think it's a perfectly good excuse. I'm happy she's where she's at, so with that, I'll be happy
Mr.
to
Chairman?
entertain a motion to accept the report.
Our supervisor of elections is a little tied up today, and she just wanted me to convey her appreciation for the board, for the complete support of her office, and she's pleased to return back to us $37,818.73. With that, motion to approve and accept.
Motion from Commissioner Fleischer, second by Commissioner Zork. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Next up is the tax collector, Carol Jean Jordan, who is here with a crew. Good morning.
I see a big check.
Well, first I'd like to say, as Jeff said, it's amazing, and you don't realize it unless you work across the state of Florida, but all of our constitutional officers get along so well and work together so well on our mutual issues. You don't think about how many things that we work on together, let alone Leslie and voting. We do voter registration through driver's license, and it's a constant thing, and I certainly appreciate it, and certainly working with the board and all the municipalities. It's a great team. It's a great county. I would like first to say, and I'm going to introduce everybody, but I'd like to say congratulations to Eve Preach. She again received the Financial Legacy Award from our Tax Collectors Association. It's teamwork, but she puts it together and she works with them with other counties, and it's amazing accomplishment. So please give her your congratulations. And, of course, everybody knows Debbie G. and how we got her over here for a few minutes because she's so busy taking in all of your money and making sure everything's accurate and everybody's happy. But we're glad to have her here today. Adria Espich is my right hand and scheduler. She also handles all of our HR work, so she's dual qualified. And the newest title in the group is our Director of Motorist Services, Lori Bloom, and we're so excited for her, and she's soon going to be a mother-in-law. She's got a wedding coming up this weekend, so she's real excited, and we're excited for her. Jason, welcome. I think this is my first official chance to say welcome, and to you and the team. Everybody doesn't know everybody, so it's a good time to say hello. Thank you for your hurricane help. I mean, that was a huge thing for me. It was my first time as a constitutional to have to hunker down the offices and make sure everything was safe. And your group was just amazing, whether it was shutters or electric or whatever was going on or not going on. We just certainly appreciate it, and that everybody's safe and that hurricane stayed way out there. We'd like to think it's a thing from the past, but I know we're still cleaning up from it. And the other thing is I'm going to make this quick, but the help with the Sebastian renovation on the concealed weapon office. We kind of had some little things we had to do to that. We're hoping to make it larger, but we have a lot of other plans that we're talking to Jason about and your staff about, so it's going to be interesting. But I'm mentioning Sebastian because the results are on concealed weapon applications. As you all know, we now take in both offices. We have sent back to the Concealed Weapon Trust Fund, which is handled by AG, $782,000. Wow. Of that, we're putting into our funds, which eventually go to your funds, a total of $124,128. That's from the work that we've done on concealed weapons since 2013 and the 3 offices. So I think that's a huge amount of money that we were able to bring in. Customer service, number one, we have a product that people are interested in. It's convenient, it's one-stop service. And then because we do have a good fee attached to that, thanks to the legislature and the NRA, Marion Hammer, we're able to cover our costs on it. It's not something, in my opinion, that costs the citizens anything like so much of the services do that you help pay for. And what we're able to give you today, because of all that, Jeff, I'm sorry. $3,003,325. Is that an amazing amount of money?
In 1 cent.
In 1 cent, yes. Yes. Well, you know Eve has got the 1 cent on there. But I'm just happy with the $3 million, and congratulations to you all, because you helped make all that happen.
And your team.
Congratulations, by the way.
Why, thank you.
Cool.
So Carol Jean, if that medical marijuana thing passes, you'll have to get used to taking in big loads of cash now, too.
Whatever it takes.
Just need a bigger cash book.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. I got my phone. Second. On 3 again. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. That's all of them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, do you want to go back to the podium for a second? Mr. Chairman, if I might ask a question of Carol Jean?
Certainly,
when
go
she
ahead.
gets back up over there. You mentioned the revenue sharing on the concealed weapons permit. And you guys are doing the lion's share of the work, and the revenue split's heavy on the state side, but that's the way it's designed to be. Does that change over time? And secondly, same question kind of on driver's licenses. Is the revenue model, does it get any better for you over time?
First, on the concealed weapons, that's a trust fund that was created with the agreement of the legislature and, you know, the gun owners of Florida, who are represented primarily by Marion Hammer. That's not ever going to change.
Okay.
That's going to stay a trust fund, which is a good thing, because everything out of that, all that goes back into what they do, you know, that making it because all the equipment that came in, we didn't have to pay for anything.
Okay, good.
That's all covered by the trust fund, whether it's the main office, the Sebastian office, the maintenance. Totally different from driver's license and tags and titles and things. Right now we are getting No, we get 20, that's okay. On concealed weapon, we get $22 on the initial application. We get $12 on renewals. We'll soon be printing renewals. Those machines are on order and will not cost us or you anything. But no, I was thinking of driver's license. We're still just getting.
$625, additional $9
Yeah.
every duplicate ID.
Okay, so that's $625, which is an agreement that we agreed that would be what we would get, which doesn't cover the cost. Right. It's probably quadruple that with documentation. But again, it's a customer service thing. And what is it? The 12 is?
The additional for duplicate ID cards.
$12 for additional duplicate ID cards. So that's kind of a promise they made down the line. I think many of us thought it would be for the driver's license itself. It's not. And just so you know, as a kind of a personal privilege thing, we're having a terrible time statewide with the computer systems. I think maybe it's their hardware. You don't want to hear my comment. It's not very flattering to what I consider they've done to the computer systems across Florida, but they're just simply not working. They were out all weekend. And that's every county, every driver's license, every license tag. It affects law enforcement. As I don't know if the sheriff's still here, but he can tell you they had to go to an auxiliary equipment to even get David and the highway safety system to work. So it's a problem we're dealing with. If you see us backed up over there, customers getting upset, it's because our systems are not working. They're extremely slow. As you know, our software is Grant Street Group. We have no problems. They notify us when the state's going down again. They're promising it'll be better. It's part of, it's not really all DHSMV. Their product is handled by the state computer systems, so it's a huge problem. It should have been taken care of, a decade ago. So it's not going to get better right away.
How many more people out there? For example, I believe last time I had to renew my license, I had to bring in quite a bit of proof of who I am and where I live, et cetera. Now, new people coming on are going to have to continue to do that, but how many are in this cycle? And I guess my question is, how long is a driver's license good for? Because that would kind of answer my question.
It's good for 8 years,
Okay.
and then you don't have to bring, unless the
Right.
law changes, as long as you have the gold star, you don't have to bring all the things
Right.
in again. We've got, 70?
We're up to 79%.
79% we're up to that are Real ID compliant by their records for this county.
So-
However, I will tell you something you all are going to be very happy with. I cannot tell you how many people are coming in every day, getting 2 Florida driver's license and registering their cars. So we're getting a lot of new folks becoming permanent Indian River County residents. So that is, difficult to figure. Some already have homes here. They, been snowbirds, but they want to become Florida residents.
So are we in the 7th year of the 8-year cycle for the license? I mean, if we're at 80%, would that be about right?
No, it's when they were issued. Yeah, so everybody's different, which is a good thing. Is that what you mean?
Well, when did they start the real compliant ID?
2010.
Yeah, so we're going into the 7th year.
But it depends on everybody's when theirs expired.
Right.
Yeah, some are still renewing by mail, and that'll come in later. But it hasn't slowed down. It has increased. I can tell
your
you that.
triage that you do, I call it triage, the person
Right.
out front.
Right.
That just saves so much aggravation. I mean, when you're there and you don't find out after standing in line and then get up there and say, oh, by the way, you didn't have what you need, come back when you have all what you need, stand back in line again.
Right,
That
and I'll let you all know, we're working with Robbie Brackett to do the same thing at the West office. It's going to be a little more complicated because we're going to have to move everything, but we are going to have a reception desk there probably within the next 6 months.
Good.
We'd hope to do it sooner, but he's being very, very helpful, helping us do. He's actually doing that for us, so it's a huge, good move on our part and his.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Heddy,
Chairman, move to accept
one
the
second.
report.
Mr. Heddy, do you have a comment on this item?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. By way of full disclosure, I'll say that Carol Jean and her late husband and I have been on opposite sides of the political spectrum on more than one occasion. I was in her office on November 1st. When I walked through the door, I looked and got a little scared because there was well over 40 people online, and I thought I was going to be there for a long time. And the reason I come to the podium today is that I was more than happy, amazed, thrilled to see Carol Jean Jordan at the front helping with the triage. And even though there were all of these people on, she managed to direct things and choreograph and get people going in the right direction with a degree of ability that I wish all of our constitutional officers had. And thank you, Carol Jean Jordan, for not sitting on your keister in your office and getting up and doing the work when it's necessary. Thank you very much. We need more public officials like you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And like I said, it's teamwork. It takes all of us, every one of you. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Carol Jean just real quickly because, you know, I think that's one of the best things the state's ever done is moving that process from the DMV to Carol Jean's office, because I can't imagine having to go through that real ID process with the old group. So
somebody electable in the county. Absolutely.
It would have been a nightmare.
That was my horror. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we did it. It hadn't been easy, but y'all have made it possible. Everything, you know, from the reception desk, putting them together to getting us a new one. I know we've got a new one coming up. So thank you. It's teamwork.
You know, the driver's license seems to be working. You got enough space and parking out west of town. How is it? And I don't frequent this one very often. So how is it, the driver's license as far as the space that you have right here? I mean, this facility and campus was not designed with that in mind.
It's a challenge, but you know, the only thing would be, I think right now we're managing. We've taken, of course, some of the spaces for the driver's license road test. We also have a VIN check area, so we take some of it personally and make it no parking. It is a challenge. The only problem would be if some other group came into the complex that required a lot of vehicles, and then we would really be challenged.
So by the time I mean, we're a long way from needing any of that empty space upstairs, a long way, right? So, but eventually, if we did put people in there, that would make it to where you'd be almost out.
If it was, I understand. I think some of the elected officials are coming, maybe coming over there. That's easy to work with. You know, that's a nominal amount of parking, but parking does become an issue. And it's a design thing, and maybe one day y'all sit down and look at it and see what we can do to make it a little more creative.
Well, Carol Jean, if you keep this incredible staff, I don't know if that decision will be so soon. It will be far off. But thank you, team.
We work with all of y'all,
Yes.
and we don't do it alone. So
Thank you,
thanks
team.
again.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Motion to accept the tax collector's report.
Second.
We have a motion to accept by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Zork. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. We move on now to the public hearings. The first is a right-of-way ordinance amendment. Mr. Rangel.
Thank you very much. On August 16th, the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County had authorized the County Attorney's Office to review the county's right-of-way ordinance in light of the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in the Reed versus Town of Gilbert case. Currently, the county's right-of-way ordinance prohibits begging, peddling, soliciting, or canvassing in the right-of-way other than on the sidewalk. The County Attorney's Office has drafted revised language which has shifted the focus from the type of speech to actually an action, and thus no longer regulating speech. The proposed language would ban distributing items with a driver or a passenger of a vehicle. The focus of the language is thus on the transaction and not disturbing the drivers of the vehicles. On August 4, 2016, the board had authorized the County Attorney's Office to draft an ordinance with the proposed language. Today we have a public hearing on that ordinance. The County Attorney's Office recommends opening the public hearing, taking any public comment, closing the public hearing, and then voting to approve the proposed ordinance. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Reingold. Gentlemen, any questions for Mr. Reingold?
I will, after the public portion, if there's any.
We will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? There being none, we will close the public hearing. Commissioner Zork.
Yes. Question to the attorney. So in looking at these changes, the prohibited activities on 3.1206. Our current, if somebody is installing a open flag for something in the right-of-way under number 3.1206 G, actually it would be G, and when it's unauthorized sign, are temporary signs fall into this? Because in the Gilbert case, it was temporary signage that was put out on, say, a Friday announcing an event for a Sunday.
We will actually address the signage issue separately. I can tell you the Planning and Development Department has been working on an ordinance to address the signage issue pursuant to the board's requirement. It's a little bit more of an extensive ordinance change, which is why it's taken a little bit longer. We plan to have that go in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission on December 8th. I just got a copy of their revised, so I think that's going to deal with that issue.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir.
Motion to approve and adopt.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Flesher.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Zork. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Reingold.
Thank you very much.
Next up is an ordinance concerning medical marijuana treatment centers. And this item will also be handled by Mr. Reingold.
Thank you very much. As you know, Amendment 2 concerning medical marijuana is on the ballot today. The board has already adopted a regulatory ordinance and also a zoning ordinance addressing medical marijuana in the event it is passed by the voters of Florida. On October 18, 2016, the board authorized staff to advertise for a public hearing today for an ordinance clarifying some of the issues within the regulatory ordinance, specifically clarifying the definition of a medical marijuana treatment center, and also clarifying that cultivation in Indian River County is prohibited. County Attorney's Office recommends that you open up the public hearing, take any public comment if there is any, close the public hearing, and then vote to adopt the ordinance. With that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Reingold. Gentlemen, any questions for Mr. Reingold at this time? There being none, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Anyone who wishes to speak? There being none, we will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, any questions?
Move staff recommendation to approve the ordinance.
We have a motion from Commissioner O'Brien, second by Commissioner Flesher. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
We move on to public discussion items. The first was the Rigby Brothers, but that has been pulled. Next up is a request to speak from Brian Hetty regarding representative government. Good morning, Mr. Hetty. Name and address for the record, please.
Brian Hetty, Vero Beach, Florida. This is the third time that I've been here to request some support for our veterans. It is election day, and there's more than one candidate on the ballot that has talked about rigged systems and corruption, about government corruption and how it's rigged. And unfortunately, I think that those allegations are correct. And I think that corruption starts here in this room. The last time I was here, and as I said, I asked a couple of times. This is my third time to ask on behalf of veterans that the county commission adopt a position to support them. And for the public who didn't hear me the last time, I'll read the text of what I've asked, and not one county commissioner would put this on the agenda. Not one county commissioner would agree to discuss it. The text reads as follows: on behalf of our constituents and those who join us, we demand an immediate and permanent end to the policy which has made national news, in which veterans who have served in the defense of our nation are being asked to return sign-on bonuses they received when these veterans agreed to serve a tour of duty for their country. We support our veterans, and any benefits offered to them and accepted by our veterans should not be denied. And I stand by that request to have the county join. The city, by the way, of Vero Beach did adopt such a resolution, and might be nice to see the county do the same thing. The other thing, and certainly, I mean, your elected representatives, you ought to be representing our veterans, and why there was any hesitation at all and why this has had to come back and back and back is beyond me. But the other thing that I've spoken about several times is sea turtle violations. It's nothing more than another tax, another income source. And at one of the meetings, I held up a photograph and showed the evidence against a citizen. I don't know which way. There we go. That's the photograph. It's nothing but black, and that's the evidence against this particular code violator. And they said that there's a sea turtle violation. And if you look carefully at the picture, up on the top of the picture, in the top 1/3 of the photograph, there is a very small white, about the size of a ink mark, pencil mark. There's a white spot, and that's a turtle violation, or at least what they're being accused of and fined for. One commissioner says, "Your photographs, Mr. Hetty, are meaningless," and that he's looked into this. Well, if in fact he was telling the truth and he had looked into it, he would know that the photograph I held up was the county's evidence against this homeowner. And had he really looked into it, he would have realized that the photograph was taken on top of the dune, across an empty lot, the whole depth of an empty lot, and across the width of another lot. Had he really looked into it, he really would have understood that a sea turtle would need the eyes of an eagle and a 6-foot ladder in order to see this small speck of a light hundreds of feet away from the beachfront. But the county persists because it's income for them, and they don't really care to represent the average citizen. They care to send out proclamations, such as the beginning of this meeting. And you approved a proclamation declaring this National Runaway Prevention, National Adoption Awareness, and a proclamation designating November 11th as Veterans Day. Well, I would submit to you that unless this county commission has taken over the United States, I don't think that you have the authority to proclaim or designate national days. And I think that November 11th has been Veterans Day for me for a whole lot of years, and you proclaiming it is nice for your support. It's too bad that you wouldn't support the individual veterans that were being mistreated, abused, and the rug pulled from underneath them. Other issue that I came to speak to you about was a commercial event. One commissioner said no, he looked into it, and he found information on the internet that proved that this commercial event in fact happened. But looking at the so-called proof, it was information from the internet, but it was ahead of, days before, the alleged violation. And if you look into the county's record, you see the inspector that they sent out based on this information from the internet that something was going to happen in the future. They sent an inspector out, and if you look at the record, the inspector came back on Monday morning and said that there was no elements of a commercial event on the day that this individual was being charged, and now this individual is being forced into circuit court because this county commission refuses to absolutely do the right thing. This county commission refuses to actually represent individuals in the way that we should expect our county to act. The huge fines against property owners for code violations are nothing but a tax, and if the property owner doesn't agree to pay, then it's a lien against their property. Your actions are deplorable, your actions are disgusting, and I don't think for even a minute that anything is going to change until we change the faces up there on the county commission. And it is election day. Anybody that's watching this morning, go out and vote.
Thank you, Mr. Heddy. Next up is
Chairman, one item, if Mr. Heddy's finished, just to clarify that the Secretary of Defense had suspended the repayment of those funds back in October, and that applied to California National Guard members only, so that since it seems to have remedies itself, was my reason for not bringing it.
Yeah, after I asked for your support in helping these veterans out, and apparently they have suspended it, and they aren't acting on that policy right now. What I asked for, and let me repeat, what I asked for was that you send to our representatives in Washington, the Department of Defense, Veterans Affairs, Secretary of State, our Congressman, Senator, Vice President, and the President, was a demand for an immediate and permanent end to the policy. And that's different than somebody suspending the policy. It's different than somebody saying, okay, it's making national news right now. Let's just let this quiet down before we get somebody else. The American public is behind. They are behind the veterans, the vast majority of citizens.
As we all are.
And it's unfortunate.
Excuse me. Let me just note that after the meeting, I did ask Tony Young, who was a colonel in our military, and asked him if this is an issue that in any way affected the veterans, if he wanted to pursue it in any way, and he said, no, it's not an issue which impacts us in any way. It's not an issue that we wish you to do anything about. So I went to the leadership of the veterans community in this county. I offered any help I could if he thought it would be of use to any veteran in the county, and he said, no, this is a more particular issue dealing with some veterans in California. It doesn't affect us. It's nothing that we wish you to do anything about. And he is in the veterans organization. He actually represents the veterans in this county, not you, Mr. Heddy. So we did do exactly the right thing. I'll just note, just for the record, that you've been coming here week after week about the lady with the event problem, but I've never seen any authority from her that you represent her. And if she was actually interested in this issue, I would think that after all these weeks, she might actually make an appearance, but she hasn't.
Well,
So,
Mr. Solari, as usual, you don't tell the truth. And,
That's not nice.
all right, one of your supporters out here is laughing. I guess he thinks that's funny. It's not funny when we have elected representatives that don't tell the truth. And Mr. Solari, I was at that podium with the person that I represent standing right next to me. But anyway, you spin the story any way you want, and you can spin the story on the veterans any way you want. And I don't care. I don't much care at all that you found one veteran who said this isn't a problem. Of course it's a problem. When we pull the rug from underneath our veterans, when we stop benefits that they were promised when they signed on, it's a problem, and I really don't care whether you can find a veteran someplace who says it's not. It is a problem, and it's unfortunate that you won't pass a simple resolution to support our veterans.
County Attorney's Matters, Mr. Brown.
Well, you want to read the public hearing?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Mr. Rangel.
Thank you
Public
to the
hearing.
chair and to the public at large. We have one public notice item. This is a notice of scheduled public hearing for November 15th, 2016. This is to consider creating a new Chapter 317 of the Code of Indian River County to prohibit oil and gas well stimulation, fracking. This will be legislative in nature, and again, this will be heard on November 15th, 2016. With that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reingold. Mr. Brown. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're doing that one too? I'm sorry, it is County Attorney's Matters. My apologies. Mr. Reingold.
You had me confused there.
My apologies.
As part of the 53rd Street construction project, the county obtained 6.2 acres from the Jenkins family back in 1988. In 2009, the county obtained a temporary construction easement over 2.86 acres. The Jenkins have filed a lawsuit claiming that the county has taken their property through the permanent fill of the 2.86 acres on the Jenkins property. In order to resolve these issues, the board had adopted a resolution of necessity back in March and has also authorized council to obtain an appraisal of the permanent slope easement over the 2.86 acres. The Indian River County has obtained an appraisal, and the value of the easement has been appraised at roughly $125,000. The next step is for the county to make an offer to the property owners, the Jenkins estate, and then enter into pre-eminent domain negotiations with the Jenkins estate. County Attorney's Office recommends that the board make the unconditional offer for the permanent slope easement to the Jenkins estate of $125,000, and I am here for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Reingold?
I have two. One, and part of this is known the Jenkins family as far as I can remember. So there's occasions where I run into them or at different events or we speak. And I did want to clarify, because it was brought up before, that we only did this because they filed suit against us, which is correct, but they only filed suit after years and years and years and years of it going nowhere, and the only way to bring it forward was to file the lawsuit with the county. If we could, as we go forward on this and it's completed, I'd like to see if the county attorney's office could do a kind of a lessons learned summary of what happened before the suit, why things couldn't get resolved to the point where both parties felt satisfactory relief, so that we kind of learn from that process and look at, again, we're trying to resolve as many things as we can before we get to this point, because my guess is, and I don't have actual numbers, but I know out of pocket on the Jenkins side's got to be a heavy five-figure number. We're paying also, I think, their attorneys' fees. I don't know what those are, and we have our outside counsel, so the meter's running at a pretty high rate. And rewatching the video from the March 15th meeting, seeing Commissioner Davis's comments as well as the chairman's, that we all know that whenever we can solve these before they get to somebody filing, we're all better off. Secondly, the concept of a slope easement, I think is a tough sell when you're trying to evaluate. We're only taking the angular piece of your property. So I guess this is the process we follow forward, but I don't know if anybody else would like to, if we need a motion to do a lessons learned. I know we have done those on other projects and other things, or is that something informally that you can kind of?
It's certainly something informally we can do. I can tell you this started back before I became county attorney.
Way before.
Yeah, and at the time I remember Alan even talking to me about this specific case. He said, we've had these times where we've had the conversation started with the Jenkins attorney, and then he kind of just disappeared for 6 months, and then he kind of reappears and says, hey, let's start talking again. And then, so I think a lot of it just happens to be large periods of inactivity on
And they felt they were waiting for answers from staff that they didn't get, and that's why they were waiting. And then when nothing happened, they would revisit again. So even if we put in a set of checks and balances, if there's a discussion on a meeting, I know Rich and I had one with some other property owners last week, and we kind of defined a window of, not an open-ended, I'll get back with you, but some type of, maybe a few months or whatever it has to be, but so that both sides that are going through the process know if you have a meeting that there's kind of a already pre-scheduled follow-up activity, and they had expressed, and both of the parents when this started were alive. Now both of the parents have passed away. Just to get an idea, this has been going on for quite a long time.
And certainly, I mean, I don't need a motion. I mean, obviously, we analyze cases and try to figure out what are better ways to go. And this board has expressed its opinion about eminent domain, which is why, one of the key parts about this is that it is pre-eminent domain negotiations. Our goal is to make an offer and have those negotiations and conferences to try to resolve this as soon as possible.
And I also, secondly, and it's not necessarily addressed in the case, if you want to call it part two, that if we addressed the right-of-way portion that was the temporary easement, in the preliminary negotiations back in the Jim Davis days, just kind of, again, painting how old this is, that how would anybody ever access from 53rd Street onto the Jenkins property? That's I think, an issue that we'll have to, I don't know if it can be bundled with this or not, but there were some discussions with Bud Jenkins, the father who is passed away, but there was some cooperative means. Now you have about a 15-foot transition between the road and their property. Is how will they ever gain access to it? So there may be other moving parts in this.
Something tells me that if we come to a settlement, I'm sure we will at some day, we'll be incorporating all of these ideas to address those issues.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Zork. Any other questions for Mr. Engel?
Just, Dylan, if this does go to court or something, or further down the road, would we be able to require an environmental assessment of the borrow pit to help determine what the real value of it is? Because in my mind, if there's a lot of contamination in it, that would reduce the value.
I think it's a good idea.
The value adjustment.
Yeah, and we'll certainly be considering that type of offset or those types of issues as part of the overall case.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else from Mr. Reingold? Gentlemen?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Flesher. I'll be happy to second it. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. And gentlemen, I believe that's today's meeting. I hope that everybody goes out to vote and that everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.